Varys left the Queen of Roses through a wall. Stone remembered better than men. It held every secret pressed against it, every frightened whisper, every lover's oath, every dying curse, every scrape of soft shoes in dark passages where no footstep was meant to be heard. Men built castles to keep enemies out and never understood how often the enemy was already inside, listening between the stones. The seam closed behind him. Queen Marjorie's chamber vanished into silence. Lemon still clung to his fingers. He had always liked lemon. It had the virtue of being sharp without seeming cruel. A little sweetness, a little sting. Dawn understood lemons. Lys understood them better. Pentos had imported them at absurd expense when Illyrio wanted to impress a girl with silver-gold hair and laughter like a glass bell. Sarah had liked lemon cakes. So did the boy. Varys paused in the darkness and let the thought pass through him like a blade through silk. The boy was not here. Not yet. Aegon was at Storm's End with the Griffin, the princess, and the army of old ghosts in gilded mail. The boy had taken a castle that should not fall, and now believed castles fell when dragons arrived. Good. Belief was a horse. Give it a bit, and it would carry a man farther than truth ever could. Behind him, Margaery Tyrell counted champions and thought herself a gardener. She had a sharp mind, that one. Sharper than her father, quieter than her brother, warmer than her grandmother, and therefore, in some ways, more dangerous. She understood leashes. She understood that men loved nothing so much as calling their chains garlands. She had seen part of the web, not all. No one ever saw all. Varys moved along the black passage, one soft hand brushing the stone. He wore no silks now, no powders, no court smile. Plain wool, plain shoes, a plain face beneath a plain hood if any rat or child or frightened maid should glimpse him and live long enough to remember. A bell sounded somewhere above. One. Not the trial bell. Not yet. A night bell, dull with rain, rung by some sleepy septon who thought hours belonged to gods. Varys smiled in the dark. The first bell is always for the rose. Margaery would do as she had promised, which was not the same as doing as he wished. That was why she was useful. A puppet moved only where pulled. A player moved herself and called it freedom. Better still, a clever player moved exactly where one needed her, provided she believed the choice her own. Her father would march out with trumpets. Loyal Mace, foolish Mace, dear Mace who survived because men mistook his vanity for stupidity. His column would thin the Tyrell strength inside the city and leave Margaery seeming more vulnerable than she was. The Faith would see a flower fenced by thorns. Cersei would see a girl abandoned by her house. The crowd would see a queen brave enough to face judgment without an army behind her. Every eye would look where he pointed. That was power. Not crowns, not swords, not armies. Attention. A king commanded 10,000 men and thought himself mighty. A spider made 10,000 men turn their heads at once. Above, the city breathed uneasily. Rain in the gutters, boots in the streets, prayers in the sept, rats in the walls. Tomorrow the bells would ring for justice, and the people would come pouring out to see if gods preferred lions or roses. People loved justice best when it was done to someone else. Varys descended. The hidden stair turned on itself like a coiled worm. At the bottom, a narrow way ran beneath the Sept Hill toward older tunnels. These passages had belonged to kings, priests, smugglers, lovers, traitors, and once, briefly, to a boy named Varys, before he learned that names were costumes, and costumes could keep a man alive. The second bell sounded while he passed beneath a grated shaft. 2. The knife, then. Tyene Sand waited somewhere above in plain white, soft-eyed and smiling, a novice with honey in her voice and venom in her blood. She knew now that she had been used. That knowledge would hurt her. Wounds sharpened the clever and broke the foolish. Tyene was not foolish. She was angry, though. Anger made knives tremble, if not properly held. He had told her enough, not all, never all. Enough to frighten her from rash confession, enough to make her understand that running to Doran would not free her from the web. Enough to let her think herself compromised rather than conquered. A knife that knew it was held cut cleaner. Her father had known that. Oberyn Martell had collected daughters as other men collected swords, each honed to a different edge. He would have hated Varys. He would have smiled while doing it. That was the best sort of hatred. Honest hatred, warm hatred, hatred that looked a man in the eye. Doran's hatred was cooler. Doran moved like water under stone. Slowly, patiently, finding cracks. He thought in years. Varys thought in seconds. But the two habits could serve the same end if the current was guided. Doran had sent daughters. Varys had sent little birds. The realm would decide which flew truer. He came to a small chamber where 7 candles stood in a row on a stone shelf. White wax, pure, humble, holy. A gift from nameless devotees, carried by tongueless boys through doors no gold cloak would question. Varys lifted the 3rd candle and turned it in his fingers. To any scepter it was only wax. To the right hand it was a message. He pressed his thumb into the base. The wax gave slightly, revealing a hollow no larger than a fingernail. Inside lay a green sliver wrapped in silk. Not enough to burn a street, enough to mark a place, enough to summon fear, enough to make a crowd cry, "Gods." He replaced it exactly. Green ghosts, he thought, Aerys's children. The Mad King had filled his city with them in his final days. Wildfire hidden beneath stones and streets and halls, a king's vengeance waiting for the city that had ceased to love him. Men thought madness made a poor architect. They were wrong. Madness built many things, provided sane men later knew where to find the doors. Rossart had known. Aerys had known. Jaime Lannister had known enough to kill them. Varys had known enough to remember. The 3rd bell rang faintly through stone. 3. The cat's paw. Winterfell came to him with the smell of cold straw and horse smoke. He had worn a beard then, brown with road dust, a patched cloak, and the name Sir Ossifer Plum, a free rider of no account with a lame horse and a fondness for sour wine. No one looked twice at poor knights in a king's train. Robert Baratheon had dragged half the south behind him to Winterfell. Sworn swords, free riders, squires, smiths, cooks, grooms, camp followers, singers, whores, fools, and men who were 3 of those things at once. A spider did not need a web when the road itself was tangled. Sir Ossifer had laughed in the yards, lost at dice, praised the wolves, cursed the cold, and let his belly strain against a boiled leather jerkin stuffed to make him seem softer than he was. A bald cap beneath false hair, a scar painted near one eye, yellowed teeth, a limp added on alternate days so no one could decide which leg was lame. Mummers knew that memory hated uncertainty. Give a man one strange feature and he remembered it forever. Give him 5 and they blurred. He had watched the boy fall. Not Bran Stark, he did not see the fall itself. He saw what came after. The broken child in the tower, the grey lord with honor carved into his face, the lady mother becoming thinner by the hour, the queen too watchful, the dwarf too amused, the golden brother too beautiful and too calm. And Robert drunk in the yard, Robert drunk at table, Robert drunk beside the fire, speaking truths he did not remember giving away. Better for the boy if death took him, the king had muttered, or near enough. A hard mercy, a king's mercy, a mercy no woman would have the stomach to give. Joffrey had heard. Pretty, cruel Joffrey, with his mother's hair and none of Tommen's softness. A boy who wanted to be a king before he knew how to be a man. He had watched Robert the word dogs watched kitchens, hungry for scraps that were never meant for them. Varys had made certain he understood. Not with command, never command. Commands could be remembered. Commands made witnesses of boys who liked to boast. No, Sir Ossifer Plum had only drifted near the prince after the hunt, smelling of wine, speaking as free riders spoke when they thought themselves clever. A strong king does not flinch from mercy. A weak one lets women weep and maesters wring their hands. A brave prince knows when another hand must do what his own cannot. Joffrey had supplied the dagger, the cruelty too. Varys supplied the man, an amateur, a filthy, frightened little bravo who smelled of horses, smoke and sour fear. The sort of man who could light a library fire but not quiet his own tongue. Varys had chosen him because he would fail badly if failure came, and succeed loudly if success came. Either would serve. The boy could live. The boy could die. It did not matter. What mattered was that Catelyn Stark would have a Valyrian steel dagger in her hand and a lion's shadow across her heart. A professional would have taken the blade back. An amateur left evidence. Evidence was only another kind of mummer's prop. That was where power lived. Not in the hand that held the knife. Not even in the prince who provided it. Power lived behind the men behind men. The wolf would blame the lion. The lion would deny. The trout would carry the wound down river. And Lord Eddard Stark, good Lord Eddard, would ride south with honor in his mouth and ruin already saddled behind him. A rat skittered past Varys' shoe. He watched it vanish into a crack. "Ran along," he whispered. "We all have errands." The 4th bell rang above. 4. The wolf. Poor Eddard Stark. Varys had liked him. That was never enough. He had liked Kevan Lannister too. A good man in service to bad blood, steady-handed, practical, weary, competent. Such men were the stones that kept rotten walls standing. The realm loved to sing of monsters, but monsters rarely preserved dynasties. Decent men did. That was why decent men were often more dangerous. Ned Stark had been too good at being hand. He had seen too much too quickly. The Queen's children, Robert's bastards, the shape of the lie beneath the crown. A less honorable man could have been bought. A crueler man could have been used. A cleverer man might have fled. Eddard Stark had gone to Cersei and offered her mercy. Mercy again. Men thought mercy soft. They had never seen how often it sharpened the axe. Maris remembered the black cells, the stink of damp straw, old piss, rust, despair. Ned with his injured leg, fevered eyes, beard grown wild, honor still clinging to him like a cloak soaked through with rain. Confess, Varys had urged. Take the black. Save your daughters. Words true enough to be poison. He had meant them in part. That was the elegance of it. Ned at the wall would have served. A living Stark in black could quiet the north, perhaps draw men's eyes northward when the time came. Ed Starks were useful, living Starks more so if properly caged. But Joffrey was always a knife left where children played. The night before Baelor's Sept, Varys had found the boy king alone in a gallery, staring down at the city he believed belonged to him. No disguise that time. No Sir Ossifer. The eunuch in silks, soft and scented, harmless as a cushion. Your grace is merciful, he had said. Joffrey's mouth had twitched. Mercy is for women. Is it? The city waits to see whether its king has the strength to punish and the wisdom to pardon. A difficult balance. A traitor spared may become a lord again in men's minds. A traitor slain becomes only a warning. He had not said, kill him. He had not needed to. A boy like Joffrey did not hear advice. He heard permission. The next day, Eddard Stark confessed before gods and city. Sansa screamed. Cersei reached too late. The crowd roared. Ilyn Payne drew ice. One stroke capped years of work. Varys had stood among the watchers and felt not triumph. Triumph was too crude. Completion. A bell finishing its note. He descended farther now, under the city's older bones. The fifth bell sounded as he reached a narrow gallery lined with dead kings. 5. Harrenhal. The skulls had been moved long ago, but not all. Some dragon bones remained in cellars where no courtier came. Great black arches of jaw and horn, empty eye sockets large enough for children to crawl through, teeth like pale knives. The Larian skull had once dominated the throne room in its pride. Robert had hidden the dragons away, as if stone and darkness could change blood. Varys stopped before one smaller skull, though even a small dragon made a man feel brief. Fire made kings. Fire unmade them. He touched the bone with 2 fingers. Harrenhal had been the first board. The greatest tourney in living memory, men called it. Lords, knights, singers, fools, ladies in silk, boys in armor too new, old men measuring alliances beneath laughter. Aerys in his paranoia, Rhaegar in his melancholy, Tywin absent but present in every whisper, Brandon Stark fierce and beautiful and stupid as a drawn sword. Robert, too loudly, already half in love with a girl he barely understood. Lyanna Stark in winter roses and secrets. And a mystery night, the night of the laughing tree. A small thing it had seemed, a tale for squires, a hedge knight appearing to humble bullies, shield marked with a laughing weirwood, then gone before anyone could pull away the mask. But Ares had seen enemies beneath the helm. Ares saw enemies everywhere. Men called that madness. Varys had learned that madness was only fear with a crown. He had known. Not at once, not by magic. Little birds had sharp eyes. Grooms saw who left with mud on boots. Maids heard which girl laughed too hard at the wrong tale. A Cranagman prince had friends, and one wolf maid was quicker than her brothers knew. Lyanna Stark, a wolf in a knight's skin. He could have told Aerys, "Tell a mad king and he burns the girl." He told Rhaegar instead, "Tell a prince and he steals her." At the time, Varys had called it rescue. Perhaps Rhaegar had too. The prince had heard enough of the old dream by then to be dangerous. A dragon must join with winter's blood. Fire alone wins crowns. Fire and ice survive dawn. Not all of it. Never all. Varys had not given Rhaegar the whole inheritance, only enough to point him where destiny seemed to wait. Rhaegar had looked at Lyanna after that as if she were a page in a book he had spent his life trying to read. And at the feast, he crowned her Queen of Love and Beauty. All the smiles in Harrenhal froze. Peter Baelish had not needed to be present to hate Brandon Stark. The boy's hatred was older than that flower crown, born in Riverrun when Brandon cut him down and took Catelyn Tully from his dreams. But hatred is a river, and rivers find other rivers. Peter wanted the wolf wounded. Varys needed the realm fractured. For a time, their currents ran together. Later, Peter had come seeking whispers, coins, names, positions. A small man with clever eyes and a wound where his pride had been. He dressed revenge as ambition because ambition sounded cleaner. Varys had seen him for what he was. Useful, dangerous, never to be trusted. Rhaegar took Lyanna south, then deeper into Dorne, to a tower remote enough for old kings to miss and ravens to arrive too late. A place acquired through friends of friends near the northern edge of the Red Mountains, where House Fowler's shadow lay long and sky roads hid more than hawks. 3 swords went with him. Good swords, loyal swords. Too few swords, as it proved. Brandon Stark rushed to King's Landing with rage where sense should have been. He called for Rhaegar to come out and die. Aerys answered with chains. Rickard Stark came south in armor and honor. Aerys's champion was fire. Varys remembered the smell. Burning leather, burning wool, burning man. The realm broke after that. Jon Arryn refused to send Robert and Ned to die. Storm's End was besieged, rebels bled, loyalists gathered. The Trident waited. Rhaegar was never meant to lose. Robert was wounded by battles already fought. His seat was starving beneath Tyrell's siege. The rebels were brave, but bravery bled. Rhaegar had numbers enough, royal banners enough, prophecy enough. But dragons would be dragons. Rhaegar rode into the ford and made the war a song. He challenged Robert where armies should have decided. Rubies flew like drops of frozen blood. The prince that was promised died in the river. Varys had survived. Spiders did. The 5th bell rolled through the bones of the city. 5. Harrenhal. The sound lingered inside the dragon skulls after the city above had swallowed it. Varys left the bones behind and entered the deeper ways beneath the Red Keep, where the air changed from old dust to old secrets. Here, in a chamber locked by 3 false doors and 1 true one, he kept no jewels, no gold, no crown. Only papers, bloodlines, copies, fragments, names written under names. Women written in margins where maesters preferred to write sons. Bastards disguised as cousins. Cousins sold as servants. Servants with dragon eyes. Exiles who died in Lys. Exiles who married in Tyrosh. Exiles who learned to hide black dragons beneath red cloth. The male line of Blackfyre had ended, men said. Men loved endings. They made history neat. Women made it untidy. Serra had been untidy. A Lysene girl with hair like pale gold and eyes too bright for any merchant's daughter. Illyrio had bought her, freed her, loved her, lost her, and never recovered the part of himself buried with her. She had carried old blood in her veins, Blackfyre through a line men had stopped watching because no sword hung from it. Illyrio's son had inherited her eyes, her hair, her sweetness, perhaps, his appetite for lemon cakes, certainly. Varys smiled despite himself. The boy had been beautiful as a child, not weak. Beautiful things were often strong in ways men only learned when they broke their hands on them. Illyrio had wanted him hidden, cherished, safe. A father's folly. Varys had wanted him shaped. A realm did not need a cherished boy. It needed a king. The boy was not Elia's son. That lie had been necessary, useful, merciful even, if mercy could be made of falsehood and still save lives. Was he false, then? Varys had asked himself that only once. No. Aegon had dragon blood. Black blood, bright blood, blood thinned by exile and sharpened by need. Blood that had survived because official histories had stopped caring. Blood that had not sat rotting in King's Landing while Aerys whispered to fire. Blood that could be taught. Varys touched the parchment where Serra's line crossed another. Bright flame. Aerian's name sat like a burn on the page. Mad, proud, dead by his own foolish fire, but even mad branches flowered. There had been children not written in white books, cousins moved across the sea, names softened, daughters married low, sons sold lower. Varys had not known the full shape of his own blood until after the cutting. The sorcerer had known enough. That was the horror of it. A boy's parts thrown into blue flame, a voice calling from the fire. A line ended before it could begin. The pain had taught him what cradle songs had not, that his blood had value to men who spoke with gods and shadows. He had been born with a crown too thin to see and lost it before he was old enough to want it. He could not be king. He could not father kings. He could only make one. And Illyrio, fat, dear Illyrio, with his cheeses and tears and soft hands heavy with rings, had given him the boy who could carry both their ghosts. When Rhaegar died, when Lyanna was said to be dead, when the child of dragon and wolf was thought lost with her in the bloody heat of a Dornish tower, Varys had understood. The first promised prince had failed, so another must be promised. A dragon alone could win a throne. A dragon joined to winter could win the dawn. That was the last dream, or the oldest. Danis had seen fire before it swallowed Valyria, but not all her dreams had been of doom already past. Some had been warnings set aside because men preferred dragons they could ride to dreams they could not command. In exile, old dreams changed hands the way beggars changed cloaks. Bright Flame kept some, Blackfire kept others, and now Varys kept what remained. He crossed the chamber to a smaller table. On it lay 3 markers, a red dragon, a black dragon, and a little wolf carved of pale wood. The wolf was female. Elaine Stone, some called her. Sansa Stark, if one knew how to listen. Littlefinger had moved faster than expected after Joffrey's wedding. He had plucked the Stark girl from King's Landing in the confusion and carried her into the Vale, thinking himself clever, thinking himself in love, thinking himself the master of a story he had stolen from childhood. Peter would control the Queen, if he could. Varys would control the King. Their goals flowed down the same river for now, though each intended to drown the other before the sea. Sansa would marry Aegon, not Margaery, not in the end. A rose made a lovely bridge, but a wolf made the dawn. Margaery could steady the city, soothe the Reach, charm the crowd. Aegon would need her smile for a season, but prophecy required winter. The Stark girl remained where she needed to be, away from Lannisters, away from Cersei, away from the worst of the knives, ripening in the Vale under Peter's jealous little son. Varys placed the wolf beside the dragon. Red? Black? He looked at the 2 pieces. Then he put both dragons beside her. Let the realm quarrel over colors. Dawn would not. Far below the table, behind stone and iron, the green ghosts waited for a bell of their own. Varys left the chamber and descended into the oldest dark. The tunnels beneath King's Landing had many names and no master. Smugglers used some, whores used others. Goldcloaks knew a few and thought themselves wise. Rats knew more. Varys knew enough. His little birds had carried candles, his grey brothers had carried coffers. Pyromancers had been paid, frightened, flattered, drugged, or disappeared according to temperament. Septons had been given arms, Goldcloaks debts, kitchen boys sweets, beggars secrets. Men in the city thought coin bought loyalty. They were wrong. Coin rented hunger. Fear rented memory. Hope bought the longest service. He came to the first cache by a door disguised as a wine cellar wall. 2 men waited there in rough brown. One had no tongue, the other had no left ear. Both bowed. Behind them, green jars slept in straw. Wildfire looked almost gentle before it woke. Thick, oily, luminous even through clay. A trapped summer, a bottled god, a liar's dawn. Nothing until the 7th bell, Varys said softly. The tongueless man nodded. When the trial has ended, the bell will be rung. At its first stroke, light only the marked jars. Another nod. Not the lower row. Not unless the city gates close and the lion burns first. The man bowed again. Varys moved on. Beneath an old stable near the Mudgate. Enough to make a bloom, not a flood. A green flower in the sky to pull eyes away from men changing cloaks at the King's Gate. Third, near a guild hall where men loyal to coin would shout fire at the proper hour. Fourth, under a disused storehouse close to Flea Bottom, where smoke could become panic and panic could become movement. Fifth, near the Sept, but not too near, never too near. The faith must seem endangered, not annihilated. Sixth, beneath a lane where Lannister men were quartered. Seventh, Varys stopped before the seventh cache. It was old, older than his plan, older than Robert's reign. Aerys's work, Rossart's pride, a cache too deep, too large, too hungry. Varys had considered sealing it, considered flooding it, considered telling Jaime Lannister once, long ago, before deciding that golden boys with bloody swords made poor confidants. No one controlled wildfire. That was the truth men forgot. Aerys had thought himself its master. Cersei would think the same if Qyburn gave her a torch and a story. Pyromancers called it a substance. Priests might call it a sign. Small folk would call it judgment. Varys called it useful. Usefulness did not make a thing safe. He stared at the old jars through the iron grate. Green light pulsed faintly in the dark. For the first time that night, his smile faded. The realm is a child, he thought. Sometimes to save it, one must frighten it from the road. But what if the child ran the wrong way? A small sound came from behind him. Varys did not turn. "You are late," he said. A boy stepped from the shadows, thin as a broom handle, eyes wide and black. He was one of the newer birds, 8 perhaps, 9. His tongue had been taken before he came to Varys, not by Varys's order, though he had long since stopped explaining such distinctions to himself. The world made broken things. Varys gave them purpose. The boy handed him a folded scrap. No seal. Sour leaf stain on one corner. Veil. Varys opened it. The message was written in the old language of his little birds. The mockingbird flew through the moon door. The wolf maid has cast off stone. Bronze opened the gate. She rides north beneath falcon wings. Winterfell is her road. The king with the burning heart waits beneath its walls. Varys read it twice, not because he misunderstood, because understanding rearranged the world. Littlefinger had been thrown through the moon door. For half a heartbeat, Varys pictured him falling. Fine cloak snapping in the mountain wind, clever hands closing around nothing. That small, mocking smile finally stripped from his face. Peter Baelish had spent his life climbing. How fitting that it should end with a fall. Varys felt no grief. He felt the absence Peter left behind. A cut strand, a trembling web. Sansa had named herself before the Vale. Bronze Yohn Royce had rallied to her. Now she marched north beneath falcon banners to meet Stannis Baratheon at Winterfell. So Peter no longer controlled the wolf. No one did. That was troublesome. Varys looked back toward the chamber above, though stone, distance, and darkness lay between him and the 3 carved pieces. A hidden girl in the Vale had been a bride. A Stark riding at the head of an army is something else. Stannis could restore her to Winterfell. He could place the North behind her name and the strength of the Vale behind her claim. If the Boltons fell, Sansa would no longer be a frightened girl waiting to be rescued by a prince. She would be the North. Harder to possess, far more dangerous, far more valuable. Varys folded the message once, then again. Plans were comforting things. Straight roads drawn across maps by men who believed the world had agreed to remain still. The world never did. Rhaegar had been the plan once. The Silver Prince had possessed the blood, the crown, the songs, the prophecy, and every advantage a careful spider could weave around him. Then Robert's hammer had fallen. Rubies had scattered into the river. Varys had adapted. That was what spiders did when storms tore through their webs. They did not curse the wind. They anchored new silk to whatever remained. Let Stannis bleed for Winterfell. Let him break the Boltons, spend his Southron soldiers, and restore Sansa Stark to her father's seat. Let him make the North whole enough to bargain and weary enough to desire peace. A hidden girl could be married. A lady of Winterfell commanding wolf and falcon might need to be courted. So be it. Marriage had been one road. Roads could close. Dragons flew. Perhaps the wolf need not be brought south to meet the dragon. Perhaps the dragon would have to go north. Varys looked at the boy. Has she passed the bloody gate? The child nodded. And Stannis? The boy held one hand flat, then drove 2 fingers into it like a knife. Battle. Not yet decided. Good. Uncertainty left room for hands such as his. Varys reached into his sleeve and produced a sugared almond wrapped in paper. Eat. The boy took it with both hands. A mercy, perhaps, or a purchase. There were days Varys could still tell the difference. The child bowed and vanished into the passage. For a moment, Varys remained alone with the green light. Then the 6th bell sounded. Its voice passed through the earth slowly, setting the old jars trembling in their beds of straw. 6. The Black Dragon. Varys listened until the final note faded. The 6th bell had altered nothing. The 6th bell had altered everything. The boy at Storm's End was still the boy. The crown remained where Varys intended to place it. Only the road had changed. Above them, the city stirred toward dawn. Marjorie would wake with 7 champions and 1 father already marching. Tyene would wake knowing whose hand held hers. Nymeria would sharpen a blade for a dead father and an unbreathing night. The High Sparrow would pray louder to drown out the knowledge that holiness could be used like any other costume. Cersei would come with rage, dressed as motherhood. Tommen would breathe beneath bandages. Sweet little king, poor little ribbon, tightening every knot by bleeding. Jon Connington would hear bells in Storm's End and mistake terror for urgency. Arianne Martell would look at Aegon and want him true. Aegon would look at the world and begin to believe wanting a crown was the same as deserving one. Stannis would stand beneath the walls of Winterfell and believe the North was finally turning toward him. Sansa Stark would ride beneath falcon banners with Peter's death behind her and her father's castle before her, unaware that the spider had already begun weaving a new road around her. And Varys. Varys stood beneath the city, with wildfire at his back and prophecy before him, wondering whether a lie could save more lives than truth had ever spared. He had whispered treason into a mad king's ear because the realm needed to break. He had whispered mercy into a cruel boy's ear because wolves and lions needed blood between them. He had whispered survival into Ned Stark's cell because a good man standing in the wrong place could hold up a rotten world. He had whispered strength into Joffrey's pride, because one stroke on Baelor's steps could finish what 1,000 ravens had begun. He had whispered Lyanna's name to Rhaegar, because dragon and wolf had to meet. He had whispered Aegon's name into the world, because the first prince had died in red water. Now the wolf had escaped the mockingbird. The spider would adapt. Whispers were kinder than swords, men thought. Men had never listened closely enough. Varys placed one soft hand on the iron grate before the old wildfire cache. "Sleep a little longer," he told the green ghosts. Then he climbed toward morning. The hidden stair opened beneath a cracked statue of the crone in a forgotten alcove below the Sept of Baelor. A pale line of dawn had begun to show through the eastern windows. Above, septons moved like shadows. Outside, the crowd was already gathering, hungry for gods, blood, and certainty. Certainty was the easiest thing in the world to sell. Varys adjusted his plain hood. Somewhere overhead, a bell rope creaked as a hand tested its weight. Not yet. 6 bells had rung. The 7th would wait until the trial was ended. The Faith believed it would announce the judgment of the gods. Varys had given it another purpose. At the 7th bell, the marked jars would be lit. The green ghosts would wake, and King's Landing would beg for a dragon.